Hey everyone, I'm David Room. I'm just gonna quick make sure that uh, fresh post is made here on Twitter and then we'll get started. It has been quite a while since I streamed last, and I wanted to share a little bit about some different things that I've been working on in the meantime, and then also do some Python programming like we usually do, some 3D mesh processing, uh, low poly art for game design, and we're just gonna have kind of a chill time today. Um, Lately, I haven't felt like rushing too much, so I'm in the mood to just kind of sit back and have a chill programming time. So let me get the post made here. Uh, and Yeah, so it's been a good chunk of time since I streamed last. I was looking back, and I think it has been uh, over 2 months, because I think the last live stream that I did was in November of last year, around November 20th. And there are a few different reasons for the long wait. So, first of all, I was sick for a while, and normally I don't let being sick really stop me from doing a whole lot of anything that is important to me to do. But uh, the problem was that I had a bad cough. And it really, yeah. So actually, a few different things went on here. Had a bad cough. So I literally couldn't talk without coughing for almost a month. Um, the other thing was that I finished my paternity leave and went back to my job. And my day job is rather intense, compared to some jobs that I've had in the past. And I had a lot of very specific things to do that I wanted to get done before Christmas so I could take some time off around Christmas. And of course, by the time Christmas rolled around and I had that time off and I was looking forward to streaming again, I still had the cough. Um, the other thing was that I have been pivoting a little bit from my normal work, which has been like the game development, 3D art stuff, to work on a little bit different application of that, which is the 3D printing. And the last stream that I did was work towards this, but I have a lot more to show. So I'm going to just quick share my screen, and we will take a look at some of the progress that I've made. Um, let's see here. Okay, so uh, I keep these little slide decks that show progress here. So let's take a look. This was back in November. I was building out this simulator mode for the game, and I like to keep kind of a fully developed or fully realized feel to places in the game. So I was building out the UI, and I started building out a room area for a background for the menu, because the menu system of my game is fully 3D. A lot of the kinds of games that my game is based on, have these kind of neat menu systems that make you feel like you're in kind of a hub area, either a ship or a carrier of some kind, or like in TIE Fighter, the Star Destroyer, or in X-Wing Alliance, the Azamines, the Azamine space station, or in MechWarrior 2, the Clan Hall. So I'm trying to build something like that into my game. This is starting to work on some 3D printing stuff here, which you'll see more of in just a second. Did some live work on the simulator room, got into the game. I think I might have done this even during a live stream, some of this work. It was really cool to see this actually in there. And then I pivoted a little bit because I was getting to the end of my paternity leave. And when I have a long break to work on something, because I usually make pretty good headway on my projects, even when I am working. I don't need time off work to make headway on things. It's slow but steady. But when I have a good chunk of time off, I like to think about maybe what are some special projects I can take on that are a little bit, a little bit unique. Maybe something that might be hard to start normally. And for a long time, I've had this idea about trying to make action figures. And I finally had a little bit of an aha moment, because you always think, oh, it'd be fun to make action figures, and I have this idea, right, that I can kind of share designs between the game, which is kind of low poly, and some high detail assets for more visual effects type trailers or things, and then I can 3D print models. And I have this cool, I'm building out this cool low poly character design thing that you're going to see more of here in a second for the game, but like it would be cool if I could make that into action figures. But actually, I'm going to grab something just quick here. I brought some examples over, but I needed a couple more examples to make the point that I want to make. So I was thinking about action figures, but I'm kind of a child of the 90s, so when I think about Star Wars action figures, I think about Power of the Force 2. And the problem is that even these action figures are kind of complex. Like if we look at this Bosk here, he has a lot of detail, kind of a complex pose. This is something that really requires an expert to make, and even if I knew how to sculpt like this, it would require a lot of time. But I had an aha moment because I was watching some YouTube videos about the vintage Kenner Star Wars action figure line. And to be honest, I've never really saw the appeal in a lot of these, but I started watching more of these videos and thinking about it, and I realized, hey, this is actually something that is maybe more doable to make. And I got a bunch of them, and a bunch of figures from the retro line as well. So this is an actual vintage Bosk, and the Hasbro retro line, I know some people really hate it, but I think they're pretty cool. I'm not really a big fan of like Disney Star Wars, but these are pretty cool figures, and they still have a lot of detail, but their articulation is more simple. Their poses are really simple, and I was just looking at these things and thinking, oh, there's kind of a correlation here between these figures and the sort of low poly characters that I'm trying to make for my game. So I decided to run with the action figure stuff for a while, and it was fun. I've been trying to use reference for a lot of things, so I used it as an excuse to buy a bunch of these retro style figures, and I even wrote some scripts to make card and bubble for test rendering in Blender. I just have the very simple figure, but I kind of figured this out. That was a fun evening project to figure out the shaders for that. Um, and then in December, among other things, which we'll see in a bit, I was working on, let's see, some collision stuff, and then I did a lot of work on programmatic low poly clothing for figures because, or for these characters, because the idea is I'd like to be able to do all of this with code just like I do all of my ships with code. So made a number of different things: hands, pants, sleeves, boots. Um, and the interesting thing about all this is that I'm taking maybe kind of an interesting approach here. So instead of just like having a parameterized function to generate clothing, I actually give it the underlying figure and some parameters. So um, these things should kind of scale and work intelligently with um, different underlying figure designs, proportions, even styles and shapes of limbs. So that's pretty cool. Um, let's see here. In January, I was actually hitting 3D printing pretty hard, and I don't have that in here yet. So um, there's not a lot of that to see. But I was like experimenting with some hats and cuffs, and a lot of these kinds of details are actually pretty easy to do, and my tools for low poly ships work pretty well for this, especially now that I have that bridging arbitrary edge loops thing. That was, I looking back on it, I'm kind of not sure what I was thinking in not implementing that. I mean, it was kind of tricky to implement, but it's really enabled tons of stuff. So yeah, and then I also started looking at some orbital mechanics stuff. I don't want to talk about this too much now because I'm not sure if my idea is going to work, but we'll probably see more of this in the future. And then what I have been working on for the past couple of days, and what we're going to work more on tonight, is some low poly digits. This is another thing that is kind of, after doing it, I'm kind of not sure why I didn't prioritize this earlier, but the purpose of these is actually, I'm mainly doing this because I want them for 3D printing. So we'll try to get into that application of it here. But I just want to talk about some of my 3D printing efforts here first. So I think in a previous stream, you guys saw some of the tools that I'm building for having separate parts be assembled. And it looks like it was right around the beginning of the year I started getting some decent results printing a ship. I think this was not the first one that I printed. I think I printed one with the wings laying down, but I'm just learning some obvious basic things about how to 3D print stuff. This one was quite small, so the wings didn't really cool properly, so they had a lot of issues, but it was really exciting to actually assemble the rest of it and see it fit together. This is pretty small. I think, if I remember right, this is a 1/192nd scale ship. And yeah, and I'm just using the low poly version of the ship at this point, the ships, because was more interested in kind of seeing what my printer could do and sniffing out problems with fitting parts together and stuff. But that actually worked quite well. I kind of calibrated what tolerance things should have, and for the most part, it worked pretty well. I would like to still come up with a better way to do these antennas, but that's not the highest priority. So this is the second really good one, or better one, that I did. This is 1/144th scale, which I found out is actually a common scale for aircraft models, and it's really nice size. This one is kind of like the first one that I think really turned out well, and actually have it here. There's still a lot of work to do here, but I was pretty excited to actually finally have this. And this is all just, um, there's no glue holding it together. It's just all fit together by, I don't know what the friction, I guess. And there's a little, one of the things that was kind of tricky, but I did manage to figure out is there's a stand, and the stand lets it sit at an angle, but the ship is designed so that the peg hole is sort of fixed. So you could conceivably design and tweak the stands so that they could be held. You could experiment with different angles. I wasn't sure if it would balance or not, so I wanted to make sure that was right. I could kind of have swappable stands. So the Free Narnian is here. Hey, Free Narnian. He says, looks like it would be fun to paint. Now, I'm not a big miniature painting person. I tried and always was frustrated with it as a kid. So my main goal here, or one of my big goals, is to be able to print things that kind of look nice without having to paint them. But I do think that it would be fun, and especially since it's my design and I can print it, and if I horse it up trying to paint it, then I can just print another one. I do think it would be fun to try to paint some of these. So that's that. So this was really encouraging. It was like, okay, I'm definitely headed the right direction here. So yeah, so this was about the middle of January. Now, oh yeah, one big problem with this is that the way I was printing this, I was printing the fuselage basically standing up, because that's kind of what you want to do for 3D printing to get the best resolution. But the rear ends up being all junked up with the supports. So the next thing that I was putting time into, and I still haven't really solved quite yet, but I'm a lot closer, is what sort of a simple way to divide parts and reassemble them so we don't have those support issues. And implemented some stuff with using pegs. I tried printing the pegs in one piece with the other half though, and that did not work at all. I also experimented with like little kind of like little tabs that fit together, and I think this could potentially work a lot better if I can do something more intelligent with how they're shaped. So here's some different tries at this, kind of compared with the ship I just showed. So I haven't quite solved this yet, but oh yeah, and then I tried printing another ship, and I was really excited about this because I'm not just making a printable model. I'm building a set of tools that let me take the models that I designed and easily make them printable. And I was really excited because after working so much with that previous ship design, the Rakan, which is one of the trickier ships that I have to print, so I wanted to keep working with it. It took, I think, only about an hour or so to do the same sort of slicing and preparation and stuff for this other model, so that was pretty exciting. I don't actually have pictures of this put together, but it did actually turn out pretty well. And it has some of the same things, like the stand and the little fins and pegs to hold it together. The antennas here didn't quite fit, but again, I'm on the right track here. The big realization that I had though was that a faster printer would really help a lot, because a lot of these designs in my printer, which is an Ender 3S1, they would take like overnight to print or a long time during the day. And I'm running the printer in the bathroom. Other people need to take showers, do the laundry, stuff like that. So, and I also started doing some research and realized that that there's some new printers that not only are faster but print better and require less messing around, which is kind of what I want because I'm more interested in designing things than like digging around with printers, as fun as that is. So I did two things. I bought a Bamboo A1, and I also bought a Sonic pad to install Clipper on my S1 to get that printing faster. This was me taking a photo of the inside of my um, S1 so I could find the chip version for the update. And then this is the first print of the Rakan on the A1. This is actually larger. So this is a 1/128th scale. It printed way cleaner, and it printed in like 4 hours instead of overnight. So kind of thing I can launch during the day. I was pretty excited about it. Now, I realized, however, though, that because this printer is more accurate, actually, all of the tolerances and stuff that I had were too loose. So this model actually didn't, it came apart really nice, but it didn't really fit together. So I've got to recalibrate the tolerances. And that's what I need those digits for. We're going to get to that in just a second. I also wanted to start testing out action figures. So I had printed one of these Boba Fett's on my S1 before at a lower detail level. This printed on the A1 at 0.08 millimeter, like high quality setting, and like also in like 4 hours, which blew me away. And you know, it's not perfect, but and you can see the layer lines in that photo, but they're honestly really hard to see in person when you're looking at it. And what boggled my mind too is just it went together really well. So I just ran a jackknife around the inside of the joints, and they basically popped in. I only ended up cracking a couple parts, and I wasn't being super careful with it. And I think if I printed it slower, it would probably be stronger as well. And I mean, it really looks similar to the real thing. So again, this is a retro collection, but I mean, it's the same size. It's the same shape. Like it's really similar. So I feel like there's definitely a way forward for me designing my own action figures and doing a FDM prints here. So that's exciting. And then here's my S1 with Clipper, which I'm still kind of figuring out, and the A1 together. So let's get into what we're trying to do today. So what I need to do now that I have this new A1, I need to figure out the tolerances. So when I make a peg and a hole, how much bigger does the hole need to be than the peg to fit in? And the A1 prints so fast that I could potentially print a bunch of variations of the... I'm going to close my door quick. I can potentially print a bunch of variations of a tolerance test at the same time. So I want to keep them apart, and I want to keep them apart, or tell them apart by including some inset digits, so I can tell what tolerance level I'm adding. So I made up these low poly digits, and we're going to try to build out some stuff to get them into my tolerance test and generate multiple variations of the tolerance test and plate it and print it. I might actually make some modifications to that as other modifications as well. And yeah, and then we'll go from there. And something else that we can do with these too is these are low poly, so they kind of fit the low poly aesthetic of my game, and they could be, you know, numbers on ships if I want to. I eventually could make letters as well. So yeah, so let's get into it. I'm gonna put on some music. Gonna listen to some White Bat. White Bat here. Listen to his. We'll try this nostalgic synthwave. And we'll just see where things go here. Just make sure that this is turned all the way up here. Okay. So I've got this digits module here, and I have a little record class for a character with an outer edge and then a list of holes. And then given one of those, I can plot it, and then I can also extrude it into a mesh, and specifically I can add or remove end caps. There's a couple little tweaks to this interface that I want to make, and then we can start in with adding these to the tolerance test in my printing workbench. So let's do that. I'm gonna factor, actually. So this is this little test bench script here. So those are all the meshes. Let's just comment this out for a second. I have a period here because I want to show decimal values to you potentially. And let's comment this. You can bevel the letters easily too. It's not super important right now. Okay, so one thing I was going to do is I was going to quick make all of these guys characters like that. Everything should still work here. Yeah. Okay, and then just going to clean stuff up here a little bit. Just cleaning up some constants here. Okay, and then this extrude function, I want to factor out this cap, even though it's kind of not very complicated. So been trying to get a little faster at coding. It's kind of silly to say that because I've been a professional software engineer for like a dozen years. But my new job is like quite busy, and a lot of things really do kind of come down to how fast I can write code. Plus, in my job, I've been using Copilot. And if you know me from talking to me on Twitter or maybe what I've said in this stream, I'm really not a big fan of using AI for creative work. So even though I don't really think Copilot is a creative tool, and we could get into that a little bit, I'm not using Copilot for my personal projects, and it's kind of it's a little tough after using it at work to not use it sometimes for my personal projects. But what it's kind of done is it's kind of showed me, hey, you can be faster, and you can actually get a little bit of a productivity boost by being faster. So what are some, think about some ways that you could be faster without sacrificing your creative vision or control. So I've been working on coding a little bit faster, just trying to get a little bit more precise. I've got some maybe bad touch typing habits that I'm trying to fix, and I'm trying to learn more useful keyboard shortcuts, stuff like that. So okay, so we've got this refactored. Let's see if it still runs here. Still need to get better at the keyboard shortcuts for switching between these viewports. Always elude me. Oh, what happened now? 2A. Oh. Dumb mistake there. I do actually have to move this down here. This is something that we're going to factor out too. Or not factor out, but refactor. Okay. So now that's done, let's get these. Let's see, do I have that assert? Move this assert. So this is just a little check to make sure that that the mesh I'm creating has the properties that I think it does. Okay. my 3D printing workbench, and I have a special, so with this script I'd run it and it would generate a set of files that I can drag and drop into a slicer for 3D printing. Normally this is set up to make a ship, but actually, and I can actually just show you what that looks like. So, you know, this is kind of what I showed. This model, showing some slicing, peg generation, showing the pieces basically assembled in Blender. You can see the pegs and holes kind of verify that things are what you'd expect. This is how it's would go here, and then you would drop it into the slicer like this. And slice it up and print. But we're going to look at a test. So I'm going to use this debug test, which let's go back to this 144. Actually, I think this. So here, this is our tolerance test, and I'm actually going to add something here. So what this is it's two cubes, and they have a peg and a hole, and the idea here is that we need to make that hole a little bit bigger than the peg, so that when we print we can actually fit the two of them together. And we want to be able to tune what this is, or like what size that peg and hole are. Now what I want to do is I want to add an additional peg and hole. So I want to add another, I want to add a top peg to this one, and I want to add a bottom hole to this one, because these tolerances seem to behave differently depending on what side of the, you know, how they align with layer lines. So I want to do that. So that's one task. And then the other thing that I want to do is I want to add those digits to show specifically what tolerance we're using. And these things are in, actually let's start cleaning some of this stuff up. So it's a project called Printing Connectors, actually. It's PCS, print configs. clean up after myself a little bit better here. Oh, maybe it's actually just in here. Yeah. Okay, so oh, I remember now. So yeah, so I'm actually using the same functionality that I'm using. Obviously, it's great when you remember something. Using the same functionality I'm using to add these pegs to the models to use them to add them to the cube. So we have to make the cubes next to each other to do the side. And you know, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to have another set of cubes too, just so that we don't run into any issues with like the hole going in the center and a hole coming in. So like I think another pair of cubes would be fine. So let's do that. And let's actually, where's this configs? Projects.printing. Debug. Okay. So we're gonna add another pair of cubes here. And actually, let's just have our parts here. It's gonna be a part sticked. Just fix it here. So here we have two cubes side by side, and we'll do another. Let's see here. I could kind of split the difference and do 3. Yeah, why don't we do that? So we'll do a cube C that's on top of the first one. Alright, now we just need to update the configuration for this config. So we will do the same thing here. Actually, use this guy. So now we need to add rays. So here, like here we're adding a peg to cube B, which means that there's going to be a hole in cube A. What I want is, yeah, I want a peg in cube B that's going to connect. So we're going to send a ray to find the position where that thing is going to go. We're going to send a ray down. Or like, yeah, it's gonna come down from it's gonna be minus second. Okay. So none. So now we have to separate cube B, cube C into their own pieces, and I think this should just work. Do what we expect it to. Debug exit here. Oh, okay. So we have our just for my own sanity, I'm gonna have both pegs. Do we want that? Yeah. I want to have both the pegs coming out of A. So that's just as simple as basically doing this. And in this case, these are it's like pretty simple geometry, so it doesn't like something here. Oh, both of these need to be on cube B. That's why. Is that right? It would be pretty easy to design this manually, but I am testing out the functionality. Yeah. That's funny. yeah, I've got to flip this around. That's why it's starting to fit. So put this into here. This. Part of the goal of this is to test out the process too, to make sure that everything's on the up and up. So, and then let's just add right away we can just actually, let's do this right. We can't really do this here. Let's see. I think that's, yeah. So now we're going to assemble some of those 3D digits and add them to our cube. So now we want to assemble the digits in a row. Figure out where they're going to start. And we're going to add a gap of about 3, and then the width is going to be plus the gap. We can use this. So divided by 2. Yeah, is that what I want? But we don't need a gap on both sides. So the total total width is going to be this width times the number of digits minus one of the gaps. And yeah, let's see if that ends up making sense. So now we're going to loop over this. Digits dot digits of string index. Yeah, and the gap is going to come after, so we don't have to. We shouldn't have to shift it by the gap. We just have to shift it by transformation dot b x times start plus width times x. And then we'll concatenate them together. Cat meshes and can't type. It's too late at night. And then let's just take a look at this and exit. See if we got something that looks like what we expect. Nope. Okay. Total length. Oh yeah. So that is just hold on. Oops, and actually, yeah. Okay. There's no attribute meshed up birds. Oh, I need to extrude this. Mesh equals. And let's see. How deep should it be? So the scale factor is going to be this. Oh yeah, I guess we can scale in X and Y, so we don't have to worry. That's kind of awkward, but whatever. The depth, let's do 1/8 of the cube side length. So then digits dot extrude character, and we want both the caps and depth times 2 and width. Let's see here. This is all still in the system scale. Three scale factors. One here. Okay. Yeah, look at that. So there's our 0.25. Looks just about right, except the depth is really small. Maybe my scale factor. See what this looks like before we scale it. let's put some actual numbers on this. So I suspect I'm just calculating my scale factor wrong here. 12. Yeah, it shouldn't be 12. It should be smaller. Because I want... Yeah, 3 and 12. And why is my... I'm expecting this to be 8. Yeah, okay, so what gives? Oh. I'll do it. There we go. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Now, did we get this lined up like right? Where we've basically distributed the gaps through. Let's just try, just for kicks and giggles. Unfortunately, this is going to show whether we've got it lined up or not. We can print the min and max x values. Yep. It's a little bit more pressing to get this right when you know the result is going to be printed. And become a real physical thing. Okay, yep, and that is not right. So, what happened there? This should be that fixes that. Now, does this still work? Yep, that works. Let's try a few different examples. Nope, not quite. Oh yeah, that one makes sense that it wouldn't work because one is... But for letters that take up the full... Actually, let's just take a look at something here. Yeah. Just looking at how fixed width digits, usually one has kind of a flag on it and it is in the middle. I don't really want to put a flag on the one, but I suppose we could. I don't want to. Alright, I think we're close enough that I don't want to spend any more time on tweaking this. So, all that's left now is we're gonna rotate this and intersect it with our cube. So we're basically gonna stamp those digits on our cube. So here we go. Slow down. I'm gonna rotate it 90 degrees around the x-axis. This is the orientation that we want. Yeah, this should be okay. And we're going to translate it out to half of our cube width. Translate mesh in 2 cube side lengths divided by 2. And then we're going to intersect our cube with it. So, difference of cube and Yep. Okay. Now we're too big and we're also backwards. So we'll flip this guy around. Now, why are we so big? Because I thought I was scaling height to half the height. Oh yeah, so we want to do this more like a third of the height. Okay, now I think that's a little deep, so let me just actually look at this and see if it looks like it is indeed 1/8. Let's see here. Yeah. I'm just measure. I need to double check these things, you know. So we want the, it's gonna be like this, and then we're not gonna put it there, we're gonna put it on the X side. Oops. Yeah. Let's see if we've got the pegs attached in the right place. Yep. Okay, cool. And that's how they'll print. Looks good. Now, just for kicks and giggles, let's see what the slicer makes of these. If it's gonna wanna put supports in or what.
Oh, floating cantilever.
Yeah, so we do need to enable supports for the peg. Okay, yep, and it does. So ideally, we'd have it be able to print these digits without supports. So what would be a good solution? I could put, see, there's no side that's free on all of these. Let me just try. I'm gonna make them even smaller. I think it's still probably gonna complain. Okay. So those are narrow enough now that it is going to do it without. Oh. Oh, what is going on here? Now we don't have supports on this. try a different slicer here. I definitely want it to print supports on that one peg. Yeah, see, this is kind of what I was hoping to see. Something like this, where we've got little supports on the inside of the letters. That's okay for now, but don't want big supports. All right, let's try again. That's strange. I'm gonna have to mess with this because did I just not? Yeah, something goofy here. It should definitely be trying to support this. It is definitely wrong that it's not doing a support on that. But that is a slicer issue that I can debug actually. Let me just thinks it can print that without a there we go. Now it's really goofy. Oh, is it just a spacing thing? That really makes me nervous that it thinks it can print that without support. Oh well. Yeah, but that's basically the idea. We want to be able to print things and then identify what tolerance we used. Hypothetically, so we can print a bunch of these at a time, because this only takes an hour at 0.12. But yeah, we've got our low poly digits into practical use here. Maybe another time we'll look at applying them to some game asset stuff. I'm imagining using my markings process, having numbers and letters and stuff on on ships. So we'll look into that probably next time. Thanks for hanging out. I hope that if you're watching now or live or later, that you are making good headway on your own personal projects, and I'd love to hear about what you're working on. And I'll see you again soon.